Alright guys, today we're going to be coaching an Akali and Syndra player. We're really going to talk a lot about what to do when you do fall behind in games and how to kind of get carried, but also we're going to talk about why he fell behind and how he could have not fell behind as well. So if you're interested in coaching from a sovereign rank 5 autofill player like me, just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or do the Discord in the link in the description, or my Twitter, DM me any of those places, and we can get you some coaching as well for just 15 bucks for an hour. But let's get right into the video.
So this one, I basically feel like I got like outskilled by the Lux. Like I don't know how I can like really keep up with her. So I changed my way because I can't really go one shot her, right?
Yep.
Yeah, eventually it just keep getting worse. So I don't know how to bounce like.
One thing you can do in the range matchups is green runes, if you like, or at least take second wind on your like extra. That's like the first kind of thing I would recommend potentially doing.
So
it helps.
do you
yeah,
we should? Yeah, do you think like put it in 2x, 3x, or something like that, or
1x
like...
speed is fine, and I'll tell you when to pause. And also, you should go. So it's like how we see your screen, you know, in game. Like zoom in. You also turn the vision to red or to blue rather. You know how to change the vision. Yeah. Nope, not that one. Pause. Just pause. Go back to where you were. It's just the one on top. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing you're kind of spacing here is poor. Like going for a trade level 1 is not your power spike in lane. Like I get that like she trolls this, but if she didn't suck, this isn't good. The problem with pushing the lane into a range matchup like this is you get froze on very easily, and then she gets to poke you up front really easily when you want to play more around your like level 2 spike. And so you're fine with keeping the wave a bit bigger, like or like their wave a bit lower so you can get level 2 faster. But you don't want to trade with her so hard on that level 1 because then you're going to lose your bone plating, you're going to lose your electrocute, you have no trading power on level 2. So does that make sense how even though you end up getting a good trade out of it, because you're not playing around your actual power spike and you're not playing around your rune cooldowns, like that's going to still make it poor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you see you're kind of in the scenario now where you get froze on because of that. So. And another thing you can do here is just recall. Like you're not going to lose that much because you notice how you have less minions than him, so his minions are not going to kill a lot of yours, right? Are going to kill a lot of yours, and like not many of his are going to die, right? Does that make sense? So then you can just recall here, and you're going to lose 1 or 2 minions, and then you're full health, and now you're fine, right? But instead you went really aggro, you lose your flash up here, and now we're in a much more difficult spot. Again, even now, take the back, same situation, and now you do, but obviously could have been done earlier. So.
Okay.
And I will point out a lot of things. I'm not ever like flaming. I'm just pointing out things because that's what we're here for. Yeah. And then we'll write notes out at the end on like the specific things to work on. And then you can watch this video back for like specific details, everything.
All right.
I'm gonna make sure I'm recording. So again here, push the wave. Did we get mana boots on the back? I don't know if we did, but it looks. The reason you want to push this wave though is you want the wave crashing on when you're gonna hit level 5. Even if you don't have mana boots, when you're hitting level 5, if you're able to crash that wave, it means you have time to roam on a big power spike. And you don't want to be in this lane when you are in a poor spot in the lane phase is not going well. Your new objective, especially past level 5, is now push the lane and roam, push the lane and roam. And so you had a time where he was recalled and you were up there first, where you could just push the lane and then you can roam. And even if he freezes on you, you get to help your team out on level 5. And if he pushes, then you can just come back and now you get a free wave because he has to crash it into you. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay.
And if you ever have questions, always ask as well, or stop me if I'm talking too fast or anything. But
okay.
And then again, this is kind of the problem here because we're playing around the lane phase here, that he's able to win against us. Again, also like the poor wave management earlier led to us not getting a good back and being weaker. But even just if we just push the wave, we're not going to be worried about him killing us under turret because he can't poke us when the wave is so big pushing him. He's going to focus on clearing the wave, and then we get to roam, and he's stuck under his turret.
So basically, I would try to push the wave up to her side as fast as possible, and then just
roam until the next wave comes. And then when the next wave comes, you come back and get that wave, and it's kind of a cycle that keeps repeating itself once you get past the level 5, past the early lane.
Right. Okay.
Like even here too, you could have pushed this wave really quickly. You're just really focused on the lane phase, and we as an Akali, we love roaming. Like we don't. So the way I think about it too, I kind of talked about this in a video, and the rank 1 Akali Nene was telling me like, this tip, even though like obviously he knows it. It was like it kind of helped him because he didn't have it in his mind when he was playing. And that's when you're winning lane and stomping lane early game, just because you know like you make some good outplays. Keep playing for that lane phase like you have been in this game, for example. Like say that you were winning this lane, then playing the stomper harder is fine because you're winning it and you're gonna get a lead. But in a situation like this where we're losing the lane, which again, we spoke about why you lost the lane and you also need to work on those things. But if you do get in the situation where you lose the lane, that's when now we're in the mindset of, okay, I can't necessarily win this lane, or maybe they're playing too safe as well and you can't kill them, right? You either can't kill them or you're too weak and you're going to die to them, right? And that's when we're like, okay, let's push this lane, let's roam as much as possible, let's look for other plays on other parts of the map. And then when we're winning that lane, that's when we play to stomp the lane, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I I do think to that like option, but
Yeah.
maybe I do that option like too late
Yeah.
to the in the game.
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of do it, and it looks like you're doing it now, right? And you're doing it around the objective, which is a great timer to do it as well, because now the objective spawning, we have time to roam. I think I would take a recall here because I'm pretty sure you have some itemization that you could get, and then that you'd be stronger before this dragon, right? But I like that you're pushing the lane really quickly once the dragon is close to spawning, and we can be doing the same thing earlier once we're hitting that level 5 power spike. And so the main thing really is just so far playing around power spikes. That level 2 power spike in lane, way better than the level 1 when you traded. Then level 3 and level 5, you have potential all-in angles. But if you don't find the all-in angles, once you're hit level 5, often backing on mana boots as well, you get to come up after the mana boots recall, and then you play for the kill on them or for the roam. And either way, it's going to be good.
Right.
And at this point, we're kind of stuck in this lane just because, you know, we did make a lot of poor trades. And also, another thing to keep in mind is when we're finding ourselves in a position where something's not going right, like you're clearly losing this lane pretty hard, right? Like that's what's happening in this game.
Right.
You continue to do the same thing. And just a general thing to keep in mind, regardless of the situation, when something continuously doesn't work, you know, say your team loses 2 or 3 team fights in a row, say you keep dying in lane, we always need to be thinking we need to do something different, because if we keep doing the same thing, where it's like, you know, it's the definition of insanity, you know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different to happen. And so in a situation like this, you always need to be thinking just quickly, just what can I do to change the outcome of this game? And so, for example, in this game, what can you do as someone who's not having a good early game in a game where your team is doing well, right? Like your team is winning. What do you think that you should do in a situation like this when your team is winning and you're very behind as an assassin?
Well, I can either like either completely ignore them to push, or I'm just trying to trade live with the like Lux or like Ash or whatever.
Exactly. Yes.
Not,
So
not tanks, obviously.
yeah. So the thing I was looking for, and you said both of them, was the side laning instead of being in the team fights a lot, because you need to hit your power spikes. You want to get to your, you know, first, second, third items, because those are really when you can start getting to one-shot the squishies. And then when you're in those team fights, when you do find yourself, you know, around the dragons and the heralds, yes, target someone and just trade 1 for 1, because in that scenario, you can't kill multiple people because you're not fed. So you go for one person, you one-shot that guy. So exactly, yeah. Those are the 2 things. You understand that. And so, you know, if you were thinking in the game, for example, even without any of my coaching, if you just thought to yourself, this isn't going wrong, or this isn't going right, what do I need to do something different? You would have came to that conclusion already. And so these types of things, like asking yourself the questions in these games where it's going poorly initially, is going to be very helpful.
Yeah. Also, I feel like this, I trying to like push silent and push for the turn, but then like they just spawn quick, and they just group quicker. So
and I don't necessarily hate the play that you did here, but the only small issue with it is that the mid lane was being pushed a little bit, and so it's a little bit hard, right? Because it's being pushed. However, I don't mind in a situation like this giving up a little bit of gold to help your team and try to get them further ahead, because you kind of realize you're not really the win condition at this point. And ideally, your team would go mid and you would cover a side lane. Like you want to switch with your bot lane. Ideally, you want them going mid when they can, and then you want to be on the side because of how this.
That's what I have in mind when like I thought Caitlyn gonna like get all the mid, right? Get all the mid.
For sure. So I just that's an ideal world, and sometimes our teammates just don't do that because it's, you know, solo queue games. But I like that that's what you're looking for. But sometimes when they don't react properly, we have to accommodate that and just go back to mid, you know.
Right.
But yeah, 100% you're right. Like that is what should have happened. And here, yeah, I mean, just using the W to clear the wave and then just getting out as fast as possible again.
I was really trying to clear out the waves, but
yeah, you kind of got poked out. It is what it is.
Yeah, the Lux power, like, I don't know, just
it's a lot of the earlier mistakes we made that makes her so strong now, yeah, and it definitely makes it hard. It is perfectly okay though, like it's understandable. Now I would
Like
okay, you're getting the fruit, that's fine actually, yeah. But I would want to go back to mid now, yeah.
here, I remember she just want. Yeah, she gets it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the like lack of awareness. Like it's she's probably going to be in the bush or camping us because she was just there. But again, it happens. Things like these happen. I've made mistakes like that plenty of times as well.
Like I did think like there's a possibility that she's in the bush, but I
Yeah,
just like I think that my reaction time was slow, I guess, but
I don't think it's reaction time. I think you just take a safer path there and it's fine.
yeah.
That's hard to
Okay.
react to out of the bush like that. But again,
Yeah,
like
so
definitely
basically,
now that our mid turret's gone, we're definitely going to go side lane. So
yeah. Basically at this point, like I know, like I'm like more like a minion, so I'm just trying to like trade live with Ash.
Asher Lux,
Or
yeah, and that's why
yeah,
you're going to want to buy QSS probably after second item because right. You think about your objective this game. You need to kill Asher Lux. If you go on Asher Lux, they're going to root or stun you, right? But you need QSS after your second item, which is a lot earlier than you would normally get it, because that's the only way you're going to be able to one-shot them. So you really need to be thinking about something like that in this specific type of game.
okay, that's interesting. I've never thought of that buying
Yeah.
QS in the second item.
It's really not a common thing. It's just like this unique scenario where both of the squishies we want to kill have that self-peel, right? So it's a
Right.
very unique thing, but it is, in this game, something that we could have done.
Okay.
But just generally speaking, as an assassin, it's important to think a lot about spells and like you kind of have to envision how the fight will go. And I talk a lot about this with ADC players, and assassins are like kind of the other role that utilize this a lot. And that's keeping track of what spells can and can't kill you, what
Right.
spells you need to be worried about in terms of one-shotting someone. And so again, in this
Right.
game, we're thinking
Yeah.
Lux and Ashe, and kind of like the Braum ult as well would be like the third thing. And so say you see Braum ult go out, and then you see the Ashe stun. Well, now you know only the Lux route is alive, right, or available. And so if we have our QSS, we go on her, we QSS as soon as we go on her, and we're able to one-shot without getting CC'd at all, right? And so keeping
Right.
track of these types of things in fights, whatever they are, and thinking about it before the fight happens so that you don't have to think about it in the middle of it, will allow you to understand how you should itemize. For example, this game Crown should probably just be fourth. Maybe you could have even done it second item, but I think fourth item Crown is definitely needed because of those same reasons. And like things like this will just help you again in these fights. So
Yeah. Yeah. Like at this rate, like the past like drag fight, I trying to trade live with Ash, but I guess like I'm like the only one there, so I'm just getting like dying
yeah,
yeah.
you're like a little impatient, and again the itemization as well. Like those couple of things, not really going or kind of making it not go well for us. And then here again, I would go topside here. Your teammates are now coming here. You need to immediately get the hell out. And topside's
Right.
the only lane that's not covered, so we need to be there. And at this point, and I like that we can talk about this because usually people don't share with me games where they're like, and I saw your match history. You're usually not like having this type of game. Like this is a rare game where you're behind this much. But like when you're having this type of game, you need to commit to it. Like you need to be like, okay, I'm just gonna side lane. I'm gonna die on the side lane. I'm just gonna draw pressure, and I'm gonna hope my team is better than them. And you kind of kept going mid so much this game that it was
Okay.
kind of too late to the point where now you see how they're ahead 2k. But for a long point in the game, your team was ahead a couple k, even when you were down. And that means that
Right.
like anytime that you're dragging anyone to you, anytime you're playing around opposite side and just really being like, kind of trying to be a passenger and let your team carry you, like is going to be way more effective than going towards mid over and over again, allowing Lux to continue to kill you. Then your team gets baited in by your mistakes and stuff like this. Once again, mid again. We need to go top side here. They have a Scion as
Right,
well, which
right.
is a perfect time. Like you play hinting akali into hinting Scion. That's literally what we do at this point in the game, and we just hope our team is better. Because sometimes it sucks relying on team, but this is a game where we have to hope that our team is just better. So.
Okay. Okay.
And again, obviously, if the mistakes that we spoke about didn't happen, then we don't have to rely on it. But obviously, like they happen to everyone. I have plenty of games where I also am in a situation like this, and I just end up going on side lane and hoping. Like again, you're here. This is not the
Yeah.
objective, right? The objective, when you know that you're going to lose a Baron, instead of YOLOing it, which like I respect it, but like instead of YOLOing it, it's to push all the waves so that they get less out of their Baron, right? You could have pushed that mid wave. You could have gone top, pushed the top wave, maybe get the bot wave out, get at least a couple waves out, push them as far as you can. More people are going to be on the Baron side, which means you can catch like a deeper wave right on top side, and make sure
Right.
that they're not able to push as many lanes. But now their top lane is pushing, their bot lane's pushing, their mid lane's pushing, and they haven't even gotten the T-Rex yet, and now they're going to get it. It's going to be pushing so hard, you're going to lose at least an inhib, probably 2 inhibs, right? Where we could have prevented this from occurring in the same way that it does. So
I think that I think in that play why trying to go for Baron is like jungle just go like calm like me just to kind of get the vision and stuff.
No, I get
and I
that.
felt like initially I remember I pinged like jungle to like back off because I know that we're not gonna win it but he's still trying to go in. So I was like, if I don't do anything or like trade at least one, like we're gonna lose the Baron either way.
Yeah.
Right. So
and you are gonna lose the Baron either way, which is kind of why the thing is like, if your jungle and Miracle steals that, cool. But like the reality is most of the time he's not going to, even if you're there. And so we need to take the guaranteed thing of just pushing the side so that we lose less. And it's really about cutting our losses. Like we need to understand earlier when something is going wrong, and now thinking about the next best play. Like we'd rather bleed 1k, 2k gold than bleed 5k, 6k gold, like we end up doing in this scenario. And now the game becomes unwinnable. Like the game before was just bad, but now it's like unwinnable because of that, right? And it's not entirely your fault. Your teammates died too. Like that's on them. But we could have made it a little bit less. We probably would have lost a little bit less gold, be in a little bit of a better position. And even if it's still going to be unlikely to win, just a little bit more likely. So.
Right. So basically, at this point, just me like.
I mean, now you can't really play it. Now it's kind of unwinnable.
Yeah, it's very unwinnable. So.
Like here, I would just go bot again. Like this is still the thing though. Even though it is unwinnable, you need to be pushing these waves in situations like this and keeping them pushed so that it's harder for the enemy to end. Because another thing is like you've had games, right, where you throw down 10k gold or up 10k gold, I mean, or vice versa. Like either way, right? You've seen games thrown in crazy ways. And usually the ways that this happens is when the wave is pushed enough where one mistake by your team doesn't mean that you instantly lose the game. And then like this means that they're going to overextend a lot of times to greed for an end, and then they end up throwing. And like that's the most likely way for you to win this game at this point. And that means that you have to have the lanes pushed, or else they're going to end as soon as they kill like 1 or 2 of you. But if the lanes are pushed out a lot further, and there's only say 1 lane pushing, you clear that 1 wave, and all of a sudden they end on your top. Like it's just these types of things, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like. Yeah. Maybe I should have gone to the side lane, but because I saw like Darius trying to go up, right? So I was like trying to trade live.
I get it. I would say the main thing about you, and again, the gold per minute thing suggests the same thing. You're very concerned about your team and their decisions and following them, and you need to be a lot more concerned with your own decisions and what's going to benefit you and how the game's actually going to be won. Like your teammates are going to be bad. There's no reason to try to if you trust in their play, right? Like you can help them. Like I'm not saying don't help your team, but when you see them doing these dumb things, there's no reason to. Like the things that we need to keep track of are, is this a smart play? Like usually how to determine if it's a smart play is, are we gaining something from it? What are we gaining, right? Are we gaining an elder? Are we gaining a dragon? Are we gaining priority? Are we gaining gold? Are we denying the enemy from getting gold? Are we stopping them from pushing something? Are we doing any of these things? And in a lot of these scenarios, your team is just looking for a kill. And it's like, okay, we get a kill. What now? Nothing. We lost the gold on the side lane. And I tell the people this a lot. 200 gold from a side lane is worth more than 300 gold on a fight. And the reason is because a kill is not guaranteed. A kill makes you worth more gold as well. Whereas side lane gold does not make you worth more gold. So both of those things combined make it far more valuable to get 1 wave than 1 kill. Now, obviously, the scenarios change when there's, say, an objective spawning, because when an objective is spawning, all of a sudden a kill becomes very valuable, because then it means you get that objective. Getting that objective obviously gets you more gold value, that type of thing. But when there's no objectives up, there's nothing to play for. Pushing these waves, playing for the turrets, playing for these other things, and then maybe fighting people if they happen to come to you on side lane, or if it looks like a really free fight where you know you can win. Like, especially when you're ahead in the game, then you can start forcing these, more fights once you hit your power spikes of, like, a death cap, for example. Like, in this game, when you hit 3 items where you'd have death cap, I'm assuming you're going something like Infinity or Riftmaker death cap.
Yeah, so I have death cap and then go for like stasis instead of QRS.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of saying, like, general, the 3-item power spike would probably be death cap, the 4-item power spike would probably be crown, and then like those 2 power spikes we can fight in this game super well. But when we're not on those types of power spikes, we just have to be on the side lanes. And like, again, your gold is super low this game. The fact that you're on 2 items at 18 minutes is like absurdly low. It needs to be much higher. And then,
Okay.
yeah, the QSS as well, like we spoke about, getting used to
Yeah.
building that when it is a good scenario for it. So yeah, there's a lot of things there. We'll write out notes after we watch one more replay, and then
Okay.
yeah.
So you go for another game, like for another.
Typically I do. If you would prefer to just go over notes and other things, we can totally do that instead. It's up to you, but that's I typically do 2.
Talk by the any damage with electric
Gotcha.
and like can't really do much. So yeah.
Okay, so first thing, Syndra's generally very good in Annie. The reasoning being the outranging. So you outrange her on her spells, and her first ability also needs to, like, it can't go through minions. And you can, right? And she also stands still when she uses abilities, and you don't. And so this means you can poke her really easily whenever she goes for last hits, whenever she walks up for abilities, things like this. And then you obviously always want to be hitting your abilities constantly to get your passive stacked, right? So.
Right. Yeah.
But again, the main thing with spell-based champions like Syndra, like Lux, Ahri, is generally making it easy to hit skill shots by waiting for the enemy to do something that's going to make it easy. For example, walking for CS. Like here, I like how you're kind of, playing for this early poke. And then, when they go for the CS, for example, you can try autoing them. And obviously, like, the way that Annie's working, it's going to be a bit harder because she Qs the wave a lot. So it's a little harder to get the stuff on her. But so far, your poke is very good in this lane. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, like I remember I start like this game very good.
okay, so there is a small problem with the mistake. Okay, there's actually a pretty big mistake that you made here. Do you want to pause for a second? And so there was a point where Minion Wave was 2 autos from getting you level 2. And then the Annie hits level 2. And you continue to auto Annie instead of hitting the wave, backing off, respecting the fact that she's going to hit level 2. And then when you hit level 2, then you trade with her. So you see how she gets the overall better trade on you because once she hits level 2, she goes aggro on you, and you didn't hit that wave when you could have. Does that make sense?
Right. I feel like I focus on hitting her a little bit too much to a point that I just kind of put myself in a bad like phase where
Yeah.
I had to go to the left side.
It's the same as the Akali game where you traded on level 1 really hard, and that's different because here you poking on level 1 is good, but when you went up for the auto trades before hitting level 2 when she's going to hit level 2, that's the thing. So just being aware of these level advantages, I think, is a big thing for your lane phase at the moment.
Okay.
You can go.
Yeah.
Vision, by the way, change the vision. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's good, right?
Yep. Okay, and you're also not really using the minions as kind of like a shield as her first ability, so could have done that. Just you're standing a bit too like far on the sides.
Right.
And here we should hard push the wave and just recall because we're low. So we want to get back as fast as possible, and so we just want the wave to crash. And so this is again another one of those times where if you have better wave management, you can get recalled quicker. And she'd probably end up walking up and you wouldn't be able to fully clear the wave, but I would just start backing once this next wave's coming. Do you see how this wave is coming? That means there's a long time where it's not going to crash on your tower. And even though it's bad, the wave, he's going to start pushing it, and it's big enough to hold there for long enough that you can recall, get that advantage, and then you can also probably, if you're 500 gold, you can buy like a Lost Chapter, for example, because you're probably going Ludens first, and then that Lost Chapter is going to help you in the lane phase a lot. So being aware of your item power spikes that help you trade in lane, and typically you're going to go mana boots, but obviously since you're only backing on 500 gold here, you would go for the Lost Chapter instead, and then that's going to be a recall for you that's going to get you mana, health, and an item back, and then she's going to be stuck here clearing the wave. And now what happens? She either doesn't get the wave under your tower, you get back on her, and you have a good solo kill angle because you have the item diff and health diff, or she crashes the wave, recalls, then you get the next wave before her, you get level 5 off that wave, and now you have a roam timer where she's stuck clearing the wave under your turret. So it's the second time as well where we could have had this recall timer, played around the level 5, crashing the wave, and then having a good time to roam. Does that make sense?
So basically, I just need to pay more attention about like the time management of the wave and just go back by item, go up.
Yes, especially when you're losing the lane. When you're losing the lane, you're sometimes going to have to take those backs when the wave is, big in the mid and like fighting. But when you're ahead, you want to crash the wave before you recall. Does that make sense why, or do you want me to explain why?
Yeah, just explain it.
Okay. So the reason that you have to back sometimes when you're losing the lane, when it's just like equal in mid, but there's like say 4 or 5 minions, is because it gives you enough time to recall while only losing a little bit. You're only going to lose 1 or 2 minions as she tries to push the wave or freeze it. So you're not going to lose a lot, and then you're kind of cutting your losses because you know that if you stay, you're going to die, right? Because you're really low. Does that make sense?
Right.
But however, when you're winning, you have enough agency where you're not worried about dying because you're winning that lane to push the wave first. That way now you don't lose anything because the whole wave is going to die under her turret, and you get all that gold, and then you have that extra gold for your recall as well. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then this is the same scenario. We're not really winning the lane. We're trying to poke her out, or we're trying to fight her. We should be trying to get the wave to crash and then roam. And another thing is, the way that the Annie Syndra matchup works is she's burst based and you're poke based. And you all in her when she had full health. And you cannot all in her until she's half health because your champion is about poking her down slowly instead of taking these all in trades like you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah. At that time, I'm thinking because I was freezing the wave, right? She clearly didn't touch, like, cannot go up for the minion. So I was standing like there trying to poke her.
Yeah, and you just have to respect that a bit more because she is stronger to all in. So
yeah, this is where like I didn't think that she had enough damage to just kill me in one combo like that.
yeah.
So yeah, after this, like I tried to keep my distance, but she just keeps crashing up.
And that really comes from understanding kind of champion roles, because again, your champion is a poke-based champion, theirs is a burst-based champion, so naturally you're going to lose the trades. Even if you don't know if you're going to get all in, you're still going to lose the trade into a burst champion when you take that instead of poking her out first, you know. So, and then this is another scenario where we want to crash the wave, and it looks like you're very aware of the dragon timers for crashing your waves.
Yeah.
And you're just not aware of the like earlier roam timers, and so again, it's the same thing we've seen in both of these games, and so that's definitely something that we can keep in mind. But I really do like that you're aware of the objective timers very effectively, so that's really good.
Yeah, I try to do pay that attention to the objective time a lot.
Yeah.
And try not to like die or like use my ultimate before like.
Yeah, but here again, like you're not aware of Annie. Once again, do you know how Annie works? So just like genuine question.
To be honest, not really.
So her ultimate, so basically the way it works, you see the bars under her, right? There's 4 total bars. Like it goes to purple when it's full.
Right.
And so using an ability of hers gets the bar up 1. And so right now she's at 2, and then once it gets to the 4th one, it'll be purple. Once it's purple, her next ability will stun you, no matter what ability it is.
Oh, okay.
Additionally, her ultimate throws a bear on you. It's like a, you kind of know how that works. But after the bear is thrown on you, she can recast it after about a second, and it'll jump on you and knock you up. So even though she stunned you with the bear initially, you still have to be aware of that second knock up that's going to come after, and that's why you died there, because you weren't aware of that.
Yeah, I definitely weren't aware of how Annie works. Yeah.
So now we know, and that'll help for the future.
Okay. Yeah.
And anytime that you say you like lose a lane to a champion, you don't really know what it does, I recommend going into a PvP or even just a practice tool and just figuring out what the abilities do. It's really going to help you just understand how the champ works, and then you're not going to be surprised by something like this. Because when you're a Grandmaster, that level, we do need to know how all the abilities of the champions work if we really want to climb higher, so.
Yeah, the thing is, I remember, like, I watched a kid, like, a long time ago. I just didn't, like, go against a lot of Annie.
Yeah, Annie is pretty rare.
Yeah, and then, like, it's been so long time, so I didn't, like, remember.
I get you.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah, that's fair. At this, I was trying to like zone her out, but
yeah, and you kind of have to understand at this point that you're not really again the one with the pressure, and so you kind of just have to be giving it a bit more respect and not really. You're just trying to land skills on her to get your passive basically, and then scale up, and that's pretty much it. So even here, like for example, I would be more focused on hitting a couple skills on her to get my passive a bit stronger, like you do here. And less about the wave, because the wave is really what we're going to clear once it comes under our turret. But we are behind enough at this point that she can just flash stun us, and that's not much we can do. But it's more the earlier things that lead to this being a possibility from her. So
right. So at this point, like, what should I do if I just I'm just kind of trying to clear the wave, not even bother like trying to hit her.
So at this point, I'd hit her for the passive when I can. But generally the wave is what like really we need to make sure is cleared, because it's going to pressure us. This game, unlike the last game, is kind of unwinnable because we don't have any strong points. Like last game you had a strong point, which was everyone apart from you really. And this game, our entire team is losing. And so the reality is we pretty much just sit here and pray. Like I don't even, we might want to start 2x speeding this because there's not as much value to be gained from the rest of it.
Yeah.
Starting off, level 1. On akali, play level 2 power spike with trades. Again, like that first trade that you made, it wasn't bad, but the problem was now we're getting poked out on that second wave because our power spike, we're now not playing around with our W where we really can usually trade with them. And even if you did want to trade with them level 1, you could have, but then you just need to be using your W more effectively to survive that level 2, and then that level 3 is going to be the next power spike. But typically that level 2 is where we should have played again. Do you remember that situation?
Yeah, right.
And if you have any questions, or you want me to phrase it differently in this typing, because I'm going to send these notes to you, just let me know. Just stop me at any time. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So next thing we spoke about. Let's see. I usually just spend some time thinking about it to just make sure I know what we talked about. But it was the item kind of backing. So the first thing is when losing lane, find a back timer when the wave will not crash. Do you know what I mean when I say crash or no?
Meaning like the wave not gonna like go into the tower range toward your side, right?
Yes. So I'm saying do not, or when you're losing a lane, try to recall when the wave will not crash too quickly. That way you have enough time where you don't lose a lot of minions, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. And then when winning the lane, crash the wave before a back timer and look for good item spikes. Then the next thing, again, in lane, and it's kind of similar to the level 2, just play around power spikes. So for example, level 5. Like obviously your level 5, as you hit that, especially if you got a mana boost back off already, that allows you to either crash the wave and roam or look for an all-in on a squishy laner, right? And these two things are something we have to be looking at. You have to really be paying attention to your level when you're going to get that, like, because if you surprise them, if you get a minion, and you get level 5 off that and they don't think about that, you can really quickly surprise them, get the all-ins and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try to think what else we spoke about. I think that was a lot of the lane phase stuff. There was some stuff about side laning. There's a lot of times on side lane where we're really playing greedy and looking for fights, and so kind of win behind in mid game as a scaling champion. For example, like Akali, Syndra, look for more side lane gold and play around your item spikes. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Is there any time that like you feel like I could push more like deeper into the side lane?
Yeah, 100%. There were times where, again, like on that Baron timer, for example, when the enemy was on the Baron, you could have gone for multiple top waves. Or another time when they were just like your team was fighting around the Baron side, but Sion was top side, you could have ignored Sion, just gone for the deeper top waves. And even if Sion came and kill you, you probably can escape because you're Akali. And you just be able to get a lot of free gold off those situations, and you'd also draw pressure to the opposite side of the objective, which are both very valuable things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like that genuinely whenever like I go silent, the problem I try not to push like deep is because I can't like know where the enemy is.
Okay, so let's talk about this then. We spoke
Okay.
earlier. What's more valuable, 200 gold from a side lane or 300 gold potentially from a fight?
Well, yeah, in that case, in like 200 goals and just.
And so the reason I'm asking this question now is not because of you not going to the fight. It's because if you don't know where the enemy are and there's no objectives up and there's nothing you're going to lose, if you get a guaranteed 200 gold from the side lane and you think you're probably safe, but you think maybe possibly you die, that means that you're getting that 200 guaranteed gold for a possibility of the enemy getting 300 gold. But that 300 gold is a kill on you where you can potentially one-shot them and also get a kill back. And so that's why, especially as a caller, you can be greedier on these side lanes when there's no objective up. Because when there's no objective up, there's nothing to really lost. And we still have to be somewhat smart about it. Like, say you see, 2 or 3 people bot side and you think probably the top side's safe, but you're not 100% sure, you can maybe go up and get that extra wave or 2 because you're not going to lose much. But if you know where absolutely nobody is, don't go up in that scenario. And also make sure you have your stuff that you can use. For example, you have your ult, you have your flash. These types of things allow you to make the side lane plays easier. And also make sure you're not wasting your flash on a side lane, a minute before the objective, because then you're not going to have your flash when it's actually more valuable, right? So you need to make sure that you're not losing too much on the side lane and that you're understanding when it's okay to die. Because sometimes it's okay to die on the side lane when you don't know for sure, whether or not someone's there if there's not much that we're going to lose, right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of write just something along those lines. So when side laning, it is. I hate autocorrect.
Yeah.
Side laning, it is fine to die for some golds if nothing, no objectives or turrets will be lost. Especially are behind. Then I'm kind of going to follow up with that. When ahead, push side lanes quickly and look for fights. So does this difference make sense? When you're ahead, you still need the side lanes pushed so that you don't just like, miss out on a ton of gold. But it's much more important to get those side lanes when they're safer and then go towards the mid, go towards looking for fights because we're stronger, we can win more fights, continue to snowball the game. But when you're behind, you just want to get that gold, just, you're playing more about the actual gold on that side lane for those power spikes. Does that kind of difference make sense?
Yeah.
Cool,
So
cool.
whenever like I'm ahead, like I push deeper, but also try not to die. And if
So
like
when you're ahead, it's
go,
you're making those more guaranteed pushes. So for example, the wave is close to you. Like say the wave is getting close to your tower, you can
right?
go there. Or say the wave is in the middle side, but your jungler's on your side of the map, and you know that not many of them are going to be there. You can get that
Okay.
wave. But say you don't know where 4 people are, and your teammates aren't on your side of the map, you're not going to go up for that side lane because the goal of side laning from ahead is to keep your turrets from dying, and then
Right.
go back and help your team in fights. But the goal of side laning when you're behind is to draw enemy pressure to get the gold that you can get, even if you give up some stuff, right? So
Okay.
all right, yeah, and side laning is an immensely important thing for generally like these AP champions getting these extra golds. So that's something to keep in mind for sure. Generally, be more confident in your decision making and stop listening to teams' silly calls. General thing, like you need to be, because it's better for you to make the mistake because you're going to learn from that mistake that you make when you make a decision, and then you're going to be able to change that in the next game. But you're going to be going into every game, not relying on your team. Like your teammates making that mistake isn't going to help them get better because they're stupid. So like it's better that you make what you think is the right play, and then if it turns out to be the wrong play, you're going to figure out it was the wrong play through the mistake, and through the result you're going to learn from that. But if you just follow your teammates, you're never going to learn how to actually play. You're just going to always be following someone else.
Okay.
All right, also know when to cut your losses.
What do you mean by that? Like,
so for example, our team all died and enemy is on Baron. Instead of going to Baron, just push waves and try to make it harder for the enemy to gain as much. Does that make sense or no? Do you want me to explain more?
I do understand that. Like,
Okay.
So I would try to push the wave as high as possible and not die, obviously.
So again, it's in a situation where like you already know they're gonna get Baron 100%. Like that game, the second game.
Yeah.
Like like they got the Baron, or the first game it was, but they have Baron. Like there's no way we can stop them from getting Baron because our whole team is dead, and like maybe our jungler's alive. That's it. Instead of going and suiciding there and just dying and then letting them push, right? Again, it's that situation where we're like, okay, we can actually go help the top side get that wave further so they can't push as many waves, get that mid wave, those types of things, right? So that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Understand champion trading patterns. For example,
I feel like this where I lose the most because I don't really have like no art champs and like how they do stuff.
And I would say playing ARAM genuinely is a way you're going to just figure out how a lot of champs work, or going into a couple PvPs and figuring out some new champs, watching a video on it. You're always free to DM me or come into my stream and ask questions. And when I'm streaming, sometimes I'm distracted, so I don't always, I try to answer, especially in between games. but
Right.
especially in my DMs, you message me, and I usually respond within the day. I don't. It depends, what's going on, but I'm always like, I'm almost never gonna just ignore it. Like I might forget about it. I usually don't. I usually respond, but if I ever forget, just like ask the question again a day later. I'll 100% answer as much as I can, or I'll refer you to a video or something, that I can. So.
Okay, that's good.
I think those are a
Aside
lot of the
from
main. I don't know if there was anything else specific that you talk about.
yeah,
I from these two gameplay, I feel like this like result happened because I don't really understand like some of the champs, and the first one it just all you say, so it's like not much.
Yeah. And so last thing then, before we go, when you're going in, I'm gonna send you these notes. You're going into your games in the future for the next, however long. I want you to choose 2 to 3 things from these notes, ideally applying during different parts of the game. So for example, the first note is an early game thing, right? Because it's like the level 2 spiking and that stuff. Side laning occurs later in the game. So these 2 things would be good things to choose simultaneously, because I want you to choose a couple things and try to really work on those. I want you to go into every game thinking, I want my level 2, playing around the level 2. I want to play around side laning, and I want you to like over exaggerate this, right? And then once you feel like you've gotten better at these, once you feel like you've really like improved in those aspects, then you check that off the list, and then you go into the next games looking for something different, and you just keep slowly building these different habits. And then once you've gotten all 10 of these notes figured out after say a couple weeks, that's when you're really going to feel like the big improvements.
Okay, that's good. So from the KDI, you say that my biggest point is low in gold.
Yes,
And
again, which the side laning and the better lane phase, which is a lot of these notes are focused around both playing around your power spikes, winning lane better, and then side laning for more gold. So these types of things are exactly what are going to fix a lot of the issues that we see in your stats currently.